Welcome. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the layers of podcasting. And if you read the title right, if you read the thumbnail right, yes, that is correct. There are different layers within podcasts, and discuss today about the importance of understanding three of them. So if this is your first time here, my name is Terryl Humphrey. Welcome to another episode of Failure is Knowledge podcast. Before we get started, make sure you got your pen, you got your notebook, and we're diving deep with the layers of podcasting and why it's so important and why it's so critical and why it's so vital to your podcast success. So first thing first, if this is your first time here, make sure you hit that follow button, hit that subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook Live, if you're on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button for sure, so that you can get more updates on the podcast industry and everything that I'm speaking about. So one thing that I discovered while doing my 90-day challenge for the 5th time is that content isn't everything. In addition to that, content is everything, because if people can't find and listen to you, how do they learn more about what you have to offer, what you have been through, and what you do? And the reason why I say it's not everything, because there's so much more than just content. In addition to that, now, if you don't have content, it's kind of like you're battling against yourself. If you don't have a podcast, it's kind of like you are challenging yourself to really stay top of mind of the people. In reality, when you discover the strength within podcasting, you launching your podcast with confidence will come with a purpose. It will come with a strategy. It would come with a blueprint. You can't launch your podcast without a strategy if you don't know the purpose of your podcast. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So first thing first, make sure you got your pen and notebook. Secondly, hold on, let me scoot this over. Secondly, there we go. There we go. So today we're going to talk about the 3 layers of podcasting. And first thing first, layer number 1 is your podcast. Okay. As simple as that sounds, if you haven't launched your podcast with confidence, there's something that's stopping you. It's either doubt, it's fear, it's worry. It's about you probably don't like the way you sound on camera, or you don't know what to speak about, or you're just overthinking, or like all these different things that aspiring podcasters go through. They doubt themselves. They doubt their ability. They doubt their expertise. They doubt what they have been through. In reality, when you start to see the importance of your experience, your podcast becomes more important because people are willing to learn from you. People are willing to listen to you. But here's the kicker. If you go out in public, if you go to a networking event and you meet some people, okay? You meet some people and you start telling them about what you do. If you don't have a podcast, how can you refer them back to you? Because the fastest way for people to start trusting people is to listen to their content, listen to their podcast, and to listen to what they're speaking about. If no one can listen to what you have put out, it's kind of like you are battling against yourself, because when people leave your presence, how are they learning more about you? There's a lot of information going on online. There's a lot of people that's doing business, conducting podcasting. Nonetheless, when you stay top of mind with your podcast, people have something to listen to. People are inspired to listen to your platform, to listen to your voice, to listen to your experience. But before they start listening to you, you have to launch your podcast with confidence. The reason why there's layer number 1, because it's the stepping stone. It's the foundation. It's what's going to build you. It's what's going to grow you. It's what's going to establish you. When I launched my podcast half a decade ago, I launched my podcast with confidence because I knew I was going to help somebody in the future. It wasn't that day I was worried about. It was like, okay, if I focus on today, eventually I will help others become the best version of themselves. And over time, I start to connect with people. I start to communicate with people. And some people that I come across, they say, I done listened to your podcast a couple of times. It's mind blowing what people do with the information that you give them on your podcast. When you launch your podcast with confidence, you are creating a blueprint for people to learn more about you. People can't learn more about you if they can't go to a podcast platform, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, and listen to your voice, and listen to your conversation, and listen to how you are speaking and conducting yourself. Growth happens. Here's what I'm learning. Here's what I just discovered on my 5th attempt of growing a podcast business, is that if I focus on over delivering value, as I'm delivering value, the value that I'm giving, it will be a lot for people to handle. Nonetheless, it will demonstrate that I respect the time that you gave me, and I want to go above and beyond to demonstrate why I appreciate the time that you gave me. Why? Because if my foundation is good with my podcast, the podcast is going to reach more people, have more guests on, and really make a difference in other people's lives. The reason why that's so important, let me share my screen. The reason why your podcast is so important is because it gives you a platform. It gives you something to go towards. So when you have, for those of you that listen to the Faith House podcast, make sure you hit that follow button. But I'm drawing and demonstrating what the podcast consists of. So when you're talking, you're talking on a microphone. This is a microphone, by the way. Microphone. But you're not just speaking to no one. Eventually there will be people who are listening, people who are inspired, people who are encouraged, people who are seeking your knowledge. But before the people start to come, you have to start with yourself. You can't grow if you haven't started, and you can't start if you don't understand the purpose of your podcast. The purpose of the Faith Knowledge Podcast is to help leaders turn setbacks into success. I haven't always been that clear, but I've been trying to fine tune it. I've been trying to understand what I'm doing. I've been trying to really gather the information, because the knowledge that I have, the experience that I gained is really helping me understand how to help leaders launch their podcast with confidence. It's not just about a microphone, a laptop, a camera, and a conversation. No, it's more than that. It's deeper than that. Well, I took a marketing class, and my professor explained that you have to always be marketing yourself. If you're in business, if you're doing something that's generating and making an impact, if you're not talking about what you're doing, how can people learn more about what you do? I thought it was called bragging. I thought it was called hey, I have this, I done that. In reality, it's not bragging. It's proving that you are quality to listen to. Your experience is what built that reputation. And when you have the reputation based off the experience that you have went through, when you launch your podcast with confidence, you're launching your podcast because now you're about to educate somebody. Now you're about to help somebody. Now you're about to teach somebody. The first layer what is it? The first layer of discovering the layers of your podcast is first you have to launch your podcast. If you don't have a podcast, how can you grow within yourself? When I started my podcast, I have a decade ago, I didn't recognize I was really growing within myself. I was really establishing within myself. I was really becoming. Before I become, I have to be becoming. I have to start launching my podcast. I have to start learning how to communicate with others, how to have a conversation, how to edit. In fact, I give you a prime example. Today, in fact, I edited 3 videos. And this week, I've edited 9 videos. And I have 4 more videos to edit. The reason why I'm sharing this is because I want to focus on the value that I'm delivering to people who ain't never been on a podcast before. If I give the value, if I give the platform and we're having a conversation, they come on to the Faith Knowledge Podcast and they explain how they turned their setbacks into success. Not only have I learned from them, I've learned how to encourage their message even more. How to be more inspired from their experience, and how to ask better questions that will help me in my life. You see, when you have a podcast, when you have a platform, you have somewhere for people to come. You have somewhere for people to say, I want to talk about myself and my experiences. And the lessons that I've learned, many times people don't even get that chance and opportunity to express themselves. When I started to recognize that even though there's over 5 million podcasters out there, 90% of podcasters stop at the episode number 3. 10% of podcasters stop at the episode number 20. So you're telling me that I have a chance. You're telling me that I have an opportunity. You're telling me that there's a moment for my voice to be heard. But before your voice is heard, your voice has to be displayed. I went to Walmart today, and as I was walking through, they played a song that was so good. And it was called Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson has a documentary coming out next year or 2026. Nonetheless, when I started learning more about myself, that song always stuck out to me, because if I want to make a difference, first I have to learn how to help myself. This song Michael Jackson explained, he said, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. If you want to make a change, you have to start with the person that you're looking at. You have to start with the person that you are with, which is yourself, because you're with yourself 24/7. The layer of your podcast, the first layer of discovering the layers of your podcast is that, yes, you're launching your podcast. To add on to that is that you're discovering yourself. Hold on. Let me just come back to it. Start with yourself, and over here, you are discovering yourself. Why? Because when you learn who you are, you can help those who are similar to you. If I didn't take the time to learn who I am, who I'm becoming, who I was over the last 26 years, I would have never understood that I'm making a difference every single day. I get up and I press record, or I go out and I go have a conversation, or I go out and go to a networking event. It doesn't matter where I'm going. I know I'm going to make a difference. I know the difference that I'm making because I make the difference for myself first. You can't help nobody if you're not willing to help yourself. And I get it. Like, they might sound selfish. Like I'm a selfless person. Like I care about a lot. I care a lot about people, which in fact I do. I'm very selfless. I'm very like I really care about people. But if I can't help myself, I'll be doing the next person a disservice, because it's something that I haven't discovered for myself. When you discover the first layer of your podcast, you have to know that you're going to grow within yourself. You're going to grow within your purpose. You're going to grow within your passion. It doesn't come easy, but if you show up every single day, it will eventually become easy. There are different challenges every single day, but the challenges appear differently. The reason being because you're constantly growing, you're constantly developing, you're constantly learning. You see, I wasn't that good in basketball, right? And so growing up, me and my friends, my brothers, would go out and play basketball, like at a basketball court. And needless to say, it was hard for me to score because I didn't really put my time into basketball. On the other hand, I played football all my life. And every day we would practice for 2 to 3 hours, go home, shower, watch the film, watch videos, practice, learning the language, learning the plays, but I'm studying the game. See, the difference between the football game and the basketball game is that it took a different mentality. It took a different level of focus. It took a different level of strength. The first layer of discover your podcast is that you have to discover yourself. Reason being is because if I put my time and energy into football, I would be a great football player. Since I didn't put that much time into basketball, I was not that good. And some of my friends, they'd be like, bro, just stick to football. Just stick to football. This is not football. This is basketball. But in reality, they were right. Some of them played basketball. Someone was actually pretty good at basketball. They put the time into it. What I'm getting to is that when you start with yourself, you're discovering yourself. When you discover yourself, you learn yourself. When you learn yourself, you help yourself. In order for you to really discover the layer of your podcast, you have to start with yourself. And that's the first thing that we just went over, is that is that your podcast is first. And as you're going through that process, you're learning yourself. Next, make sure you got the pen and paper and make sure you're writing it down. Next, hold on, let me erase this right quick. So number 2, okay, this one right here, I give credit to my high school football coach. His name was Coach Ely, and he called me a high rep guy. He called me a high rep guy. And when he said that, I'm like, what does that even mean? He said it take you a long time to understand something. And I thought about it. And I'm like, does it really take me that long? Does it really take me that long to get it? Like, I just don't get it. Here's what he's saying. Here's what he was saying in my perspective. It's not the fact that you don't get it, but it's how long do you need to mess up for you to understand what you are doing? So the next thing there is that you have to, I'm not sharing my screen, have to be patient. I'm gonna put 3 lines underneath that one. You have to be patient, because the first layer of discovering your podcast is that you have to discover yourself. When you discover yourself, you start to change, grow, develop, evolve. Okay. In order to change, grow, evolve, you have to give yourself time to be developed. You can't be developed if you're not consistent. You can't be developed if you're not showing up. You can't be developed if you're not launching your podcast with confidence. Patience is like the virtue of, hold on, make sure we good. Okay, we good. Let me just move this over here so that don't happen no more. Patience is like the secret ingredient. So when I was younger, I was cooking with my papa one time. And he told me and my 2 brothers, he said, don't ever cook when you're hungry. Because if you cook when you're hungry, you will never be able to eat when you get done cooking. In other words, if you're hungry and you're cooking and you're eating while you're cooking, you're going to be full, but when the food gets done. Let me tell you something about patience. Let me tell you about something about patience that, I often overlook, and I had that fail so many different times. Patient means that you're paying the price. To pay the price, you have to know what you are paying for. I went to the store and I bought me a water bottle. I know I'm getting a water bottle. And when I go and pay for it, I know I received a water bottle. And when I go out the store, I know this water bottle is in my hand because I just paid the price for it. You see, hold on. Let me come back. When you are patient, you're paying the price. In high school, my coach said that you're a high rep guy. I should have told her, I said, Coach, I'm paying the price to learn how to be a good football player. But at the time, I didn't know that's what it was called. It was more so of, you right, Coach. But then as I get older, it was like, oh, wait. If I would have understood how to play, how to be a good football player so quickly, I would have missed the lessons because I wasn't patient enough. Some other people around me might not be patient, but for me, for myself, I know patience, you have to pay the price. It doesn't matter what price you're paying. You might pay with time, you might pay with money, but for now, discovering what you are paying for will help you in your future, will help you in your life, will help you with your discovery. It's not going to be easy, yet it'll be worth it to discover what price you are paying. Sometimes you have to overpay, okay? Sometimes you have to underpay. Sometimes you might not even pay at all, but the price is the price. And one day you will pay it. You hold on. See, the price is the price, and you might have to pay it because the price might be discounted. And this leads to underpay. Or it might be what is called priced up. And that's no discount. That's no discount. Or you might have to pay. Hold on. I like this one. Or you might have to pay. You might have to pay later. Equals payments. Regardless of the matter, the price has to be paid. Regardless of the matter, someone is going to pay that price. Regardless of the matter, you will eventually have to pay it. Because as you're discovering the layers of your podcast, first you have to discover your podcast. In addition to that, it starts with yourself. Okay. Next, you have to be patient. Because when you're paying the price, you will not see the rewards today. Because instant gratification is not a real thing. I'm thinking everybody who's a pro, who's successful, who's a celebrity, they already had it. Like, they didn't have no struggles. They didn't have no failures. They didn't have no type of setback that they had to experience. The Rock, prime example, The Rock had $7 as some change in his pocket. And for him to figure out himself over and over and over again, he's positioning himself differently because he's patient with the journey. The journey is what's going to make you different. The journey is going to make you grow. The journey is what's going to establish your patience. Because if you can wait to be gratified, if you can wait to be celebrated, if you can wait for your success, eventually, as you're paying the price every single day, here's a terminology. This is not financial advice, but the word goes hand in hand with everything that you're doing. You're compounding your effect. Shout out to my wife. She always talking about making your money grow and talking about that type of stuff. Nonetheless, when you compound your effort, when you compound your day, when you compound your patience, when the success comes, you'll be ready to handle it. You'll be ready to say, hey, I've been working so hard for this. As I'm working hard for this, I know what I had to do to get to where I'm at today. I saw this video on X, and it was a guy that was doing like a turkey drive, and he was doing a turkey drive, and then like he saw a couple of old friends, and he hugged the old friends, and he just broke down because the old friends was like, I'm so proud of the growth that you've established. I'm so proud of everything that you have been through. I'm so proud of your discovery. Now, they didn't say the last two. I'm throwing the last two in there because it goes hand in hand with what I'm saying. I digress. It was so overwhelming for him, he started to cry. You see, many times in life, it's the patience that pays off, because it doesn't matter what you go through. Doesn't matter what you experience. Doesn't matter what you have learned. What matters that you keep showing up. What matters that you keep improving. What matters that you keep learning. What matters is that you keep discovering yourself. You cannot have the success that you're looking for with your podcast if you don't focus on the next podcast episode. I did a podcast Monday in fact. Focus on your next episode. Focus on your next journey. Focus on your next moment. Focus on your next discovery. Self-discovery is the biggest thing that a lot of people miss, because self-discovery takes time. To be patient, you have to know something's going to come from your work. To be patient, you have to know you are discovering yourself. To be patient, your success will eventually come. You see, when I started to understand that the Phase House podcast is more than just a conversation, it's more than just a platform. It's a space where people can come and share what they have been through, aka their setbacks, and how they turned their setbacks into success. You see, everyone has a journey, but everyone's not speaking about their journey. Everyone has a moment, but everyone not speaking about the moment that they experience. Everyone has a downfall, but the downfall is not spoken about because everybody want to look perfect. Let me tell you something right quick. Hold on. When you discovering the layers of your podcast, just know it's going to be challenging. Just know it's going to push you. Just know it's going to challenge. It's going to make you grow. Just know you're going to be developed. But to be developed, one has to be willing to go down that journey. To be developed, one has to be willing to learn more about themselves. To be developed, one has to start with their podcast. Excuse me. It pays to be success. It pays to be patient. And to learn from everybody that's around you, because when you learn it from everybody that's around you, you start to see what they did to get to where they are at. Okay. So first, let me share my screen again. So first, we went over discover the layers of your podcast. First thing that we talked about was your podcast. Your podcast has to be discovered, and you do that by starting with yourself. Next thing that we talked about is that you have to be patient. You have to pay the price. Either it be discounted, priced up, or pay later. At some point, you're going to be paying the price. Lastly, okay, for your podcast to be discovered, number 3, you have to share your vision. So we got your podcast start with you, and then we got be patient, and then lastly we got share your vision. So I did I did a speaking engagement in a couple weeks ago. And me and my wife and I was in Cleveland, Ohio. That was our first time being there. And we went for the conference, and the speech that I spoke about, the presentation that I delivered, it was about building leadership through podcasting. Building culture. It was building culture through podcasting. And not to say that it was bad, because I thought it was good. But then when I ask for feedback, I see ways that I can improve. As I'm asking for feedback, I was like, this is really long. As I was presenting, I was like, this is really long. It was really long. Golly. So, geez Louise. In addition to that, in one of the slides of one of my presentations, one of the slides on the presentation, I had share your vision in one of the slides. And once I got done presenting, I'm asking for feedback. Hold on. Excuse me. I'm asking for feedback. I'm talking to everybody. I'm just communicating with everybody. And one of the attendees, they say, I liked how you spoke about sharing your vision. Because if you don't share your vision, how are people supposed to know the vision that you are chasing, the vision that you are accomplishing, the vision that you are discovering? So when I start to really understand, like, wait, hold on. Like, even though the presentation was long, people got something from it. And I know this because I asked. I know this because I asked for feedback. And I know this because they gave me feedback. They gave me constructive criticism on how to improve for next time. Here's the thing. When you share your vision with other people, they might not understand what you are doing, but their reaction, how they respond, what they say will help you with your vision. It's not the fact that they need to fully understand your vision. You, being the podcaster, just have to be comfortable with expressing your vision. Because if you don't express your vision, how are people supposed to understand the purpose of your podcast? You see, I discovered something the other day. So I got a tent, okay? I got a tent. It is a 10 by 10 canopy canopy tent. And with this tent, across the banner, let's just say this section right here is the banner. And on the banner, it has this: failure is knowledge. Okay, it has that on there, right? What I recognized but didn't fully understand until people kept saying it, they came up to the tent and they read the banner and it said, failure is knowledge. I like that. Then when I hear that, I ask, what do you like about it? They say, well, you got to actually go through life to experience the knowledge that you're looking to gain. And then I started to notice, not just one person kept saying what was on the banner. Multiple people kept saying what was on the banner. Okay. Picture this. If nothing was on there, let's go back to the drawing. All right, so if nothing, okay, let's go there. Same tent, 10 by 10. If nothing was on this tent, what does this tent say? What does this tent say? And it says nothing. It says nothing. The vision is not on the tent, so people can't read your vision. When there's nothing on the tent, your vision is not being shared. I said, oh, now understand the importance of sharing your vision. At Phase Knowledge Podcast, we help leaders turn their setbacks into success. If you ever struggle with launching your podcast with confidence, send us a message because we host daily podcast trainings to help you launch your podcast with confidence in less than 90 days. When you don't share your vision, nobody will understand what you're offering. Now they have to come to you and ask questions about, what do you do? How long you been doing it? Why should I work with you? It's not the fact that people are asking that question. It's more so that they have to ask that question. Whereas when they get a glimpse of what you do, when they have an idea about what you talk about, and when they understand your vision, they start to ask you questions about the information that you've shared instead of them gathering the information to help them understand what exactly you do. I started to wear this shirt more often, the Failure Knowledge t-shirt. I got the Phase Knowledge t-shirt in the back. Got the Phase Knowledge picture in the back. I got another Phase Knowledge t-shirt in the back. I got another Phase Knowledge t-shirt in the back. I got another Failure is Knowledge t-shirt in the back. I got a poster right across from me, the Phase Knowledge poster. That's actually my first one. Why am I constantly saying that? Because the vision has to be shared. Your vision of your podcast has to be shared on a consistent basis. And people start to say, hey, that's the podcast guy. Hey, you about to go do a podcast today? They're going to come to you because of the information that you've given instead of what you haven't given. Because now they're trying to pull the information out, but instead the information is already on the table. When you share your vision, let's go back to the tent example. When you share your vision, if there's nothing on the tent, it makes it harder for people to understand what you do. Whereas if you constantly have something on your tent, you're constantly talking about something, and you stay on brand and you stay on what you're speaking about, people will eventually say, "What's failure is knowledge." I like to say it, but what is it? And then when they come into my world and they start to ask what I do, I start to explain. We help leaders turn setbacks into success by helping them launch their podcast with confidence in less than 90 minutes on a daily podcast training. When you start to position yourself as the vision, people start to say, "I see your vision." There's a scripture in the Bible that says, where there's no vision, people will perish. And in fact, I'm going to actually read more of it so I can really understand the story behind it. Nonetheless, when you share your vision, people know what you stand for. When you share your vision, people know what you are, what you represent. When you share your vision, people understand what you are working towards. When you don't share your vision, people are guessing. When you don't share your vision, people are wondering. When you don't share your vision, people are going to give up trying to figure it out. So before they give up, share your vision beforehand, and eventually they will start to come to you with information that you have shared. And as you're sharing that information, you get positioned differently. So to discover the layers of your podcast, we went over 3 things today. The first thing that we went over was your podcast. You have to start with your podcast. When you start with your podcast, you're discovering yourself. You're discovering the purpose of it. You're discovering the mission behind it. And you're discovering the goal behind your podcast. The next thing that we went over was that you have to be patient. At some point, you're going to pay the price. Either it's upfront, either it's after, or it's over time. But at some point, you're going to have to pay the price. Lastly, we talked about sharing your vision, the importance of talking about your vision, of talking about your podcast, of talking about the difference that you're looking to make on a consistent basis. Because when you share your vision, people will perish to your vision. Because many times they know what you are working towards. So let me know in the comments your biggest takeaway on discovering the layers of your podcast, and let me know if this helped you, and if you would like more videos, more podcast episodes about this to help you really launch your podcast with confidence. Until then, hit that follow, hit that subscribe, and make sure the notifications are on, because we are going to really dive into the topic of podcasting and how you can launch your podcast with confidence. Until next time, I'll see y'all next time.